It can go down any number of ways. I mean, it totally depends on the person and if there's simply a desire to compete or if there's like a real spark of inspiration that drives them to this arena. And some people have this like massive motivation to innovate, and some people have a story to tell, and all of those things are aspects. But so point being, some people honestly spend 2 weeks preparing for the national and then the international competition, and they just knock it out, and they're able to do well occasionally. I'm not sure that anyone has ever won with such a short time frame, but Matt Perger, for instance, who I coached and worked incredibly closely with in 2013 for both the Australian competition but the world competition as well. He and I had been working on his routine and really the theory behind a lot of the techniques that he used for about a year and a half, or almost 2 years actually, because he took a year off from competition and simply to build a portfolio of technical ability and new approaches to something that because we work so closely with it, it's difficult to gain perspective. So in that case it was a really long journey, and Charles Babinski, competing today, is notorious for only beginning to actually practice or start preparing literally weeks before the competition, because he'll wait for the spark to hit him, and then he goes into like just a fury of preparation, and it makes for a very unique style of presentation, and it's very energetic, and it's very, again, inspired, and it feels new because it is literally new to him, and it works really heavily in his favor. So it really, people approach it so differently, just depending on the character. Obviously, it's a competition, it's a game, so you have to cater to the score sheet, which sounds incredibly bland, but it's the people. It really is always the people, that the competitors that are able to really stretch the boundaries of the rules as much as possible, while still working within the literal confines and of the rules, that break through and do something new, even though the rules seem very strict as to what is allowable, and do something that's creative and innovative with the exact same product that they work with every day. So that, and I think providing a great story and narrative that encapsulates your experience with a coffee, with one particular coffee, and of course demonstrates your passion for what you do. I think those three things really, all winners of the WEC have been able to demonstrate that over the 15 years that it's been going on. No, I think it it does actually come in all forms, simply because, if you look at someone like Willem Davies, who won the WBC in 2009, and then just the next year, Mike Phillips, who won in 2010, they are really polar opposite characters, especially on stage. Gwillem was incredibly holistic, really insightful and calm, and just made the judges feel incredibly comfortable in the routine, while having a dialogue about the relative infinite possibility of flavors that coffee can possess. And then Mike Phillips, in 2010, where it was really just a onslaught of information, and he really attacked the whole time, and it was fast-paced and super energetic and really exciting to watch, like a sport, really, and was incredibly ambitious, and it really paid off. And so that was like a very tense routine, and again, fast-paced. So there's no one like temperament or specific character type that wins out. I think all of these people are simply they're showing different sides of the same coin often, and simply the unifying thing is their ability to communicate, their intensive preparation, even if it's a short period of time, and their genuine passion for the product and willingness to and desire to really push the limits of what was even just a year before previously considered possible with something that's seemingly so simple as coffee. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of, well, certainly as far as professional development, it is massive. I mean, it is the biggest spotlight that you can have within the world of coffee. And, if you can make it to, or if you can do well in these competitions, you can really make a career for yourself in coffee. I think it's one of the easiest ways, most direct paths to making a career and a name for yourself in the business. But outside of that, in terms of just practical application, I think there is really a certain it's a slightly more elite group that you join, even simply having competed, because of the necessity for being meticulous and being just detail-oriented, and the necessity for exploring minutia within coffee. And you can very frequently tell those people apart, which is part of what makes them so desirable back in, outside of competition in the real world, so to speak. I think as far as the WBC reflecting the competitors, there's an interesting interplay that happens between the competition and the industry every year, which is that the industry outside of competition frequently moves faster than the competition. But then in the same sentence, I will say that some of the biggest innovative moments in our industry have come directly out of the competition. So it's a discussion that we're constantly having, and it's the most direct way to express a new idea to the industry at large. But of course, there are always things that the industry is looking the competition to come along with in terms of altering the rules or allowing for, which I think is reflected in the new set of rules that will be taking place next year. Not necessarily talking about simply a cappuccino, but just making a milk beverage that tastes as good as you can. I mean, it's a simple tweak, but it reflects a desire from the industry to have a little bit more flexibility with that category. But things like weighing espressos on scales were really popularized because of the competition, and new ways of approaching service come from the competition all the time, and new discussions on things like just brewing coffee, but also serving customers really emerge from the competition every year. So they interplay in that way, constantly, and no one way is necessarily more important, or neither the competition nor just the general industry, I think, pushes alone. They are sort of one and the same. Well, I mean, honestly, I think the competition will. I'm not involved with with the organization at all, but I think the competition will continue to evolve. I think in 5 years we might not recognize it when we look at it today. So, it could take a completely different shape. There might be a merging of some of the competitions. Like right now we have completely separate competitions for filter coffee and espresso style coffees, and espresso based beverages, and we could see those conjoin. We could see them get more disparate, but I think hopefully a lot of evolution, because the more the competition pushes the industry globally, the better, I think, no question. And I think I think the first 10 years especially were really about creating a standard of service globally. And now, the world has really caught up with things like Twitter and just the internet generally, and the communication that's provided. You can go to Kenya and people will stop you and say like, oh, I read this paper you wrote, or I saw this talk you gave, and it completely changed the way that we run our coffee bar in Nairobi. And that's just like it's a really amazing thing. But the organization was really concerned with making sure the standard of service provided, or the rules really provided, guidelines for companies just entering specialty coffee, which is part of what the having sponsor equipment is about, and the qualitative testing, certainly, that is done by the WCE, which I'm a part of, is a massive part of that. Basically providing a stamp essentially from industry professionals saying we believe in this product, we believe in this product's ability to make excellent coffee, and that as well will begin to have more and more of a spotlight as time goes on. I think those are big changes that are going to be happening. So that's very exciting. I think allowing the community to have more of a voice and a better outlet for giving feedback to manufacturers about what we need in the industry is huge, and will hopefully lead to a new period of unprecedented communication between the spear tip of the industry and the companies that have been manufacturing espresso equipment for 50, 80 years, so or just coffee equipment. So that's really exciting, and that's definitely a huge aspect of how the WBC, but also the WCE, the World Coffee Events organization, has been pushing the industry along. So that's important.